Time to do another chapter. So we're going to get to it. Are You Lonesome Tonight? The story of Lucy DeBarvin and Elvis Presley. All right, so we left, and Lucy has met John Wayne, who's filming a movie in Alexandria, Louisiana, which is where she's living, which is on the west coast of Louisiana. And he has, wanted to spend some time with her and not necessarily go on a date. He just wants to have a friend to talk to. And he liked her when he met her. He enjoyed the time, and he wanted to meet her another time and just visit. And she keeps saying no, no, no. So he just has to drive up and pick her up. And so she goes outside to the store, from the store at the end of the day, and that's where we are. So there's a car out front for you, Lucy. Who's in it? Mr. Morrison. And I think I asked y'all, do y'all know who Mr. Morrison is? Well, John Wayne's birth name is Marion Morrison. And so he got the nickname Duke sometime when he was a teenager. But anyway, so Mr. Morrison's in the car. So we're in the fall of 1958. So Elvis is still in Texas. I don't know what month this is in the fall, but he ends up going to Germany in October. So end of September, early October, something like that. So he could be in Germany now, I'm not sure. The bearded man was pointing to a double-parked car. Mr. Wayne was inside, smiling and waving me in. I hesitated, and he beat the horn, startling me. He was creating a scene, so I had no choice but to go over. He explained that he just wanted someone to talk to. He was completely in charge, and it was appealing. We'll have some supper. You certainly look like you need it. He took me to a cozy country inn somewhere outside the city. So I guess she called her mom and said, I'm going to dinner with John Wayne. Will you watch the kids for me? It was a functional place with wall lamps, the typical candle in amber glass on the table, old-fashioned ladder-back wooden chairs, and plastic glasses. If one was going to dine with Hollywood's finest, one would expect crystal, except glass, but plastic? There was a stir at the other tables when he sat down. He didn't mind. He was totally at ease with his fame, an attitude Elvis never mastered, which is kind of true there. Elvis loved being Elvis Presley, but he also wanted to be just Elvis. And he was not able to just go out to eat at a restaurant, without swarms and swarms of people. I mean, there were always fans at the gates when he left Graceland. There's a back road, a back driveway that he actually used quite a bit. And there were no people there. So he could go in and out there. But yeah, I mean, he just couldn't go. He always had to go shopping. He'd call the store and say, I'm going to come in tonight. Can you have some sales associates stay there after hours? He would do that with pet stores. He would go to the pet store after hours and get puppies, take them to friends, keep some. But, he was just never able to just go out to eat. There's a story of him with one of his girlfriends when they started dating, and he wanted to take her to the steak restaurant at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. And they were sitting there, and they were near a window, and people were walking by, and all of a sudden people just kept stopping at the window and looking in, and then people started coming in, and they couldn't even have a quiet dinner to get to know each other. It's just a poor guy. But anyway, that's the way it was. So he was never really able to master that. I wonder if he would have done that more often in Memphis, if people would have just over time said, that's Elvis, let's just, give him some privacy. The way people do a lot of movie stars in Los Angeles. They just don't pay attention to him. He was their hometown hero, and maybe they would have stopped bothering him over time. But anyway, soon people in the restaurant came over to shake his hand or ask for an autograph. He attracted so much attention. I was uncomfortable. This was not the place for someone in hiding. When he ordered, he sounded as if he was reading a line from one of his cowboy movies. "Bring us 2 of the biggest Louisiana steaks you got," he bellowed. "The finest wine for the lady and whiskey for me." My John Wayne. Oh, me. Halfway through the meal, a middle-aged lady wandered over and asked him for his autograph. He readily agreed and used the moment to embarrass me further. "Sure, ma'am, but she's prettier than me," he said, pointing at me. He scribbled something and handed it to the lady. She was puzzled when she looked at it, then walked away. I wrote Mary Morrison," he said, then laughed heartily. "I want to show you where I'm living," he said afterward. I stayed quiet, not wanting him to notice my nervousness. We talked about the countryside, climate, everything and nothing. He asked me what I was doing in Alexandria, and I said I was just passing through, doing some promotions for a former boss. We drove for more than a half hour toward Baton Rouge and finally pulled up to a small motel. Mr. Wayne announced that this was his temporary home. He asked me in for a drink, and I balked. "I just want to talk. Please, I have something I want to tell you." I couldn't tell if it was a line or what, but he was persistent, and I was curious. The only sign of life in the typical motel room was a few liquor bottles on the dresser. He grabbed one of his bottles and poured me a drink. I didn't want it, but I took a sip to be polite. It was strong, burned my mouth, and briefly brought back bad memories of the man. "Tell me about yourself," he said. "You look like a lady with a story to tell." "There's nothing to tell," I said, quickly changing the subject. "What do you want to talk to me about?" "Right to the point. I like that. I wanted to know why you resist men." "What are you talking about?" "I watched you that night at the country club. I can tell you're anguished over someone. Who hurt you? I've got to leave soon, so let's hear it. Get it off your chest." "Please, no," I murmured. "Are you in love?" "No," I said. "Is this what you wanted to tell me? You haven't told me anything. You're just asking lots of personal questions." He walked straight toward me. I was scared to death. He stopped in front of me and said, "Don't be afraid of me. I won't hurt you. I like you. But that's not why we came here. I can see how scared you are about everything, little one. Sit down." I sat down without a word. "Since I've been here, I've been lonely. I want to finish this picture and get away. My wife and I are separated." "I'm sorry," I said, not knowing what else to say. "I'm not. You can't take a person and mold them into what you want. Love is accepting a person and trusting and growing with them." I wasn't sure what he was saying, but I wasn't going to ask him to elaborate. His marital problems were none of my business. "You've heard my problems, now tell me yours. And don't say you don't have any, because I can see it in your eyes." So that was it. We were to trade heartaches. Instead of being angry, I suddenly felt like opening a crack. I had kept everything inside for so long. John Wayne wasn't the type who would gossip about something like that. He was above it all. "There is someone I love very much," I began. "And now it's over. It's as simple as that." To me, that was exposing myself to the world. To anyone else, of course, that was saying nothing. "Little one, you're lying. There's a whole lot more to your story than that. You better get it out before it eats you up." I was beginning to break. He was so firm and authoritative. "The man I love is far away," I said. "I hurt him because I love him. I had to. But I can't forget. When do you stop loving someone? Is it when they aren't there to reassure you? Or never?" I couldn't finish. As usual, my emotions took over. My tears disarmed him. He got up and said, "You know, if you tell me everything now, I won't have an excuse to see you again. Let's go." I apologize for breaking down. "Thanks for wanting to help. No one can. You've been very kind." He came over, hugged me, took my hand, and led me out of the room. I could think of nothing but Elvis as we drove back to my house. Elvis liked John Wayne. He was one of his heroes. Elvis was so famous, and I was a nobody. And here I had met Mr. Wayne before he had. Life is strange. "I'll see you soon," Mr. Wayne said as we pulled up to my house. "We'll go for a ride in the country. Stay sweet, little one." "Goodbye, Duke," I said, using his nickname for the first time. I felt I had made a friend. I didn't hear from him for 3 or 4 days and was relieved. I had no desire to finish my story. After work one day, I noticed a man following me as I walked to the bus station. He caught up and began walking in step with me. I recognized him from somewhere, but couldn't place it. He introduced himself and said he had met me through Max at the store. He was the man I had snubbed. Remember? He had asked her to come over to the men's department, and there was a man over there. He introduced her, and she said, "Nice to meet you," and turned around and walked away. He was 6 feet tall, slender, had short black hair, and looked like a typical businessman in his dark suit and tie. In a thick Texas accent, he asked if he could drive me home. I was taking the bus everywhere now because I had gotten behind in my car payments, fought with the finance company, and told them to take it back. I declined the Texan's offer, and he responded by asking me out to dinner. "I don't go out," I responded bluntly. "I have 4 children at home that I have to take care of, along with my mother, who is ill." He was stunned enough for me to hop on the bus. He was like, "Whoa, okay, later." 4 children, okay, and your mom? Men, movie stars, dates, fancy restaurants, and expensive cars. I had no desire for any of it. I just wanted to take care of my children and get my life on some normal course. I asked God to give me a sign that would lead me in the right direction of what to do and where to go next. Mr. Wayne called the following day and asked me to meet him after work on a quiet back street a block or so from the store. I wasn't too pleased with the idea of hanging around on a back street. I threw on a black cape I had sewn and headed down the block. I imagined he would drive up and collect me off the street like a prostitute, an image I found disturbing. To my surprise, he was standing there, big as day, and a tan overcoat. You can just picture that, John Wayne standing on the side of the road with a tan overcoat on. I didn't think movie stars could hang out alone on a corner like that. "You look like you're standing in a hole, little one," he said, laughing, making fun of my 5'2" stature. He was about 6'4". "It's just because you're so big." "Let's walk," he said. It was pretty street and thankfully deserted. The leaves were falling and the colors were beautiful in the dying light. It reminded me of Memphis and walking with Elvis. Everything reminded me of Elvis. She went to Memphis in the fall. We came to a corner where there was a park bench under a large oak tree. "Lucy, we're going to finish shooting in a few days. I want to see you again if I can. I want to hear the rest of your story. My life is really over. I've lived so many years since I was 11. "What's hurt you?" "I have to make my own decisions. I'm so afraid." He just stared into my face, waiting for an answer. I felt I could trust him. "I've had a very difficult life. I don't want to go into it, but I met someone who took all the pain away. We became very close, and the nightmares of the past didn't matter anymore. Then he became famous, and the nightmares returned. He couldn't save me anymore. I had to save him. I had to save him from me and my past. I know you can't understand this, but please try. I had to run away from the only light I've ever had in a very dark life." "Who is it, Lucy? Let me help. Maybe it's not as absolute as you think. Tell me who it is." "Elvis Presley." "Damn," he said. "No wonder you're so afraid of everything." I covered my face in shame. Elvis promised never to tell anyone about me. Now here I had told someone. Mr. Wayne wanted to know exactly what happened. I gave him a brief version of the story. He told me to move to Los Angeles and wait for Elvis to return. He said that my family could stay at a place he had in Newport, and he'd get a job for me. I told him it was a generous offer and I'd consider it. We walked back down the street. All I could think about was how I had betrayed Elvis. "If you need help, I'll be here. I have a big heart and an even bigger shoulder," he said. "I need your friendship," I said. "Thank you for being my friend." When we got home, he scribbled a number on a card and told me to call him in Los Angeles if he didn't see me before he left. The next time I saw him was at a rosary service for a movie crew member who was killed on the last day of filming. It was a sad occasion and a solemn end to what had been a nice friendship. Okay, a little backstory. Stuntman Fred Kennedy was killed during a freak accident while filming the last scene of The Horse Soldiers. He broke his neck during a scripted fall from a horse and died the following day at Natchitoches Hospital. And I did a little research on that, and sure enough, that did happen. And there's a picture in the story that I read about, and John Wayne is at the service. There's a picture of John Wayne at the service for this man. And also, I did research on a motel where he stayed while he was filming, and there's a story came up from the son of the owner of the motel. So when John Wayne stayed there in the late 50s, during this filming, this motel was run by a man and his wife, and they had a little boy who was about 5-6 years old. And he said he remembers John Wayne checking in, and John Wayne came in, put his hand on his head, and squatted down and talked to him, and he just thought he was so nice. And the man that ran the place had a room behind the check-in counter where he would stay sometimes because if he had someone arriving late, he would stay in that room, and when the person arrived, he would come out and check him in. And so he didn't stay there all the time, but it was, a motel room that he kept for his personal use. And when John Wayne checked in, he let John Wayne stay in that room so he would have more privacy from fans just showing up, because, motels back in the day, and in this story, there was a picture of the motel, and it was just, those old-timey motels where you just drive up and you get out of your car and you walk up to your room right there. Your door to your room is right there outside, and you just use the key, get in. And so, if John Wayne was staying in a room like that, then fans could easily get to him. So he let him stay in this private room, which was kind of cool. So, but this motel also had a very good restaurant there that had the best steaks in town, quote unquote. And I don't think that's where Lucy and John Wayne ate, because she said after they ate, they drove 30 minutes to get to this motel. So I don't think that's where he ate that night, but he probably ate in that restaurant multiple times after filming. He would go back there and eat. But anyway, that was kind of cool. So here we go, back to the story. So December was a depressing month. My children had gone to stay with one of my sisters, and Mother was in Denver visiting another. Remember, Mary was in Denver. And I was alone with Desiree. A week before Christmas, there was a knock at the door. I opened it and saw two men. They were gruesome looking, and one seemed vaguely familiar. He had a round face and his hair was slicked straight back. The other man was tall with dark hair and was wearing a brown overcoat. I asked him if I could help them, and the tall one said, "I sure hope so. May we come in?" I wasn't about to let these characters in. "I think you should hear me out, lady," the man said. "Do the initials EP mean anything to you?" That's kind of hair-raising, right? For a lady in hiding. I walked out on the porch and closed the door behind me. They knew something, and I wanted to know what. "How's your baby?" the second man asked. A chill cut through me. What did they want? "Get to the point," I said to the one that was familiar. "What's your name?" "That's not important," his associate cut in. "What is important is there are people looking for you, on both sides, if you catch my drift." I think he means the man and maybe Elvis. Because Elvis thought she died at this point. He thought she had died in the snow. That was the story going around. But I don't know. On both sides, I don't really know. That's my guess. "What do you want? How much is it worth to you for us to keep quiet? Please leave. Look, just give me what money you have and we'll forget we ever saw you. We don't want you to get hurt, lady." I looked at them with disgust and said I'd be back with the money in a minute. I went to my bureau drawer and took all the money I had, $25, and gave it to them. "Feel proud that you've taken food from a baby's mouth." This was the final blow. Is that what it had come to, being blackmailed by small-time crooks? The only thing that tempered my depression was trying to place where I'd seen one of the men before. It started coming back. When I was in Monroe, a stranger came to the door one day and said the man had told him to see if I needed anything. He said he was a friend. He pushed his way inside and just stood there. Then he said, "I came to see what you look like in person. I've seen you dancing on TV. I just wanted to see if you were as beautiful up close." "Please get out," I had shouted, showing him to the door. He appeared to be the same man as the one with the slick-backed hair. That meant more people knew where I was. I was about ready to give in to despair when Desiree started to cry. I lifted her out of the crib and held her, thanking her for reminding me of the beautiful things I still had. Elvis, Desiree, and I were a family. We would be bound no matter what happened. I thought of something he said during one of our conversations. "If we're ever separated, just listen to my songs. I choose songs that tell you how I'm feeling. Listen to the words. I talk to you in my songs." Oh my gosh. He talks to her in his songs. Hold on a minute. I need to turn some more light on. Or let me turn towards this light here. Oh my gosh. I need to sit up. All right. A little research here from the author. On the surface, Elvis's promise about talking to Lucy in his songs appears to be a pretty but empty line. He wasn't a songwriter, so he couldn't have crafted any songs for Lucy. Furthermore, he's been harshly criticized for not caring about his music and letting others dictate what he sang. Elvis often told interviewers that the words meant nothing. He just sang songs. But when one digs deeper into the Elvis legend, a different portrait emerges. This to me is just so fascinating and interesting. So Charlie Hodge, Elvis's army buddy, turned guitar player and one of his closest associates, sat in on several RCA recording sessions. Okay, so Charlie Hodge, he is way more than what this man says here. Charlie met Elvis. I'm going to give you a backstory and try to be fairly quick, but it's kind of a lot. So Charlie met Elvis on the boat when they went from New York to Germany. He was placed in the room with Elvis and was in the bunk below him. And this is such a God thing because Charlie used to be in a quartet, a gospel quartet. And you know, that's what Elvis liked. He even wanted to be in a gospel quartet. That was his dream, was to be in a gospel quartet. And he actually had gone to see the quartet that Charlie was in once before in Memphis. And he went backstage and talked to him. This was after he had gotten kind of famous, so he could just go backstage. And so he met Charlie. And here, he and Charlie are now in the army at the same time and are now on the same boat. I don't believe in coincidences. God definitely planted Charlie in Elvis's life and put him under the bunk on the boat. And now this is the first time since Elvis's mom had died that he was not busy with people around him and going to the army every day and, you know, doing duty and doing stuff. And he's on the boat for however long it took them to go overseas. And he's able to finally start grieving. And he and Charlie was a singer. They bonded over their singing. You know, they started talking about all of that. But at night, Charlie said he could hear Elvis crying when he was going to bed, going to sleep, because he missed his mom so much. You know, and Elvis said that he did cry, but he tried not to let the army people hear him, army buddies hear him. But Charlie did because he was, I don't know, these beds on the boats, I don't know if they were hammocks or if they were real beds. But so anyway, Elvis opened up to Charlie about his grief, and they got to be really close. And so while they were in Germany, they were in different groups. So like Elvis was stationed in Jeeps. And I don't know what Charlie did, but he would invite Charlie to come over to his house. And Charlie, being a singer, actually helped Elvis. He became his voice coach and helped his voice. So like if you listen to Elvis before the Army and and then compare that to after the Army, his voice is so much smoother and mature sound. Of course, he did matured, but his voice he grew an octave in how high and low he could go. He could go higher or lower, and his voice became much smoother. He learned how to breathe through his singing, and Charlie was a huge component of that. And there's recordings from Elvis at his home in Germany when they were recording and practicing him singing. And so I've listened to that. I've got a CD of those recordings. It's really cool. And but then when they came back, Charlie started going back to work, whatever he was going to do. But he would come over if he was in Memphis. He would come over. Hey, Elvis, I'm in town. Hey, come over. So one time he was over there, and they were actually loading up the bus, the RV, to head to film a movie in Los Angeles. And Elvis said, "Hey, Charlie, why don't you come with us?" And he was like, "Okay." So he went, packed up suitcase and hopped on the bus, and he was with him ever since. And he actually lived with Elvis at Graceland because that's not where he was from. He was from Missouri or something like that. And from that time on, Elvis always had a room in his home for Charlie. So Charlie lived downstairs in this extra room at Graceland, and then eventually Elvis turned the garage into an apartment, and he lived out there. And he lived there until the early 80s, the early 1980s. Even after Elvis died, he lived there. But when Elvis was in California, every home had a room for him. There was Charlie's room. There was always a room for Charlie. And in Las Vegas, the suite he stayed in at the International Hotel had, it was, I think, a 3-bedroom suite. Guess who stayed there? Elvis had the master, and then Charlie had a room. And then the extra room, it was either like Joe Esposito or Elvis's dad, or, that one was kind of the rotating room, but Charlie always had a room. So Elvis and Charlie were very close. So, and when it came to the stage show in Las Vegas, Charlie had everything to do with the stage setup, how the sound would be, picking the song, helping Elvis with picking the songs they would sing. He directed the stage show, is what they said. So he was, but on stage, Elvis would kind of pick with him. Charlie was real short, and he would pick on him, but he always introduced him as the one who gave him his water and passed out his the scarves that he would give out. And if you ever watch on any of his videos of him on stage, he'd go over and get the scarves from Charlie. But Charlie always was a backup singer and guitarist. And in fact, he trained his voice to sound like Elvis. And in his latter years, sometimes Elvis couldn't hold a note because of all the issues going on, his enlarged colon and all it's pressing on his lungs. He couldn't take as deep a breath. Charlie would hold the note longer. So if Elvis' voice cut, Charlie was still holding the note for him. And I thought that was extremely sweet. So this Charlie guy was extremely important in Elvis's life. So that's who he talks to. But so Charlie helped him pick music. And so he is going to know. This guy is going to know. So what he says is the truth, and you need to know it. Charlie Hodge, Elvis's Army buddy, turned guitar player and one of his closest associates, sat in, he's probably one of the closest, probably of the top 3 closest people. Charlie is one of them. Charlie, Billy, and Larry is who I would say was his closest associates. He sat in on several RCA recording sessions. In his book, Me and Elvis, he describes Elvis as a master artist who would tape a song 50 to 60 times to get it perfect. Then tell the startled technicians that the 37th was best. And that is true. Elvis would listen to a song over and over and over, tape it over and over. Hodge also shatters the myth that Elvis sang whatever was put in front of him. The truth, according to Hodge and other insiders, is that prior to recording, Elvis was brought scores of demo songs, and that is true. Charlie brought a lot of them to him, and Red West, who was one of his Memphis Mafia, also wrote music and sang. Red West was his bodyguard. He brought lots of music, but it was just sent. Tons of music was sent to him. Elvis chose the songs he liked. He didn't choose anything. In fact, that's one of the things he said after the movies. He said, I will never sing a song again that I do not believe in. But even before that, in the 50s, he listened to the words of the songs and he chose the songs that he liked. And he liked the messages in songs. So the words were very, very important to him. From the time he lost Lucy in 1954, continuing through the second separation in 1957, Elvis gave the thumbs up to an inordinate number of songs about lost love, heartache, and despair. Granted, those are the themes of many a country and western tune. But Elvis was relentless. He was saying a lot of blues music is what he sang. It wasn't country then, so I don't really go with that theme. He was relentless. Some of his choices became hits. Heartbreak Hotel. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. Are you lonesome tonight? Return to sender. Address unknown. And Kentucky Rain. Oh, how I love that song. Looking for a lost love. The bulk, however, were the flip sides of his singles. So the bulk of the songs that were possibly messages to Lucy were the flip side of the singles, or the album fillers, throwaways that could only have been chosen for their words and not their mediocre arrangements. Check the B-sides in the Elvis collection, and you'll find songs like You're a Heartbreaker, My Baby Left Me, I'm going to sit down, right down and cry over you, Trying to Get to You, That's When Your Heartaches Begin, I Beg of You, A Mess of Blues, Lonely Man, They Remind Me Too Much of You, It Hurts Me, Always on My Mind, and on and on and on and on and on. Did Elvis know what he was singing? You better believe it. Elvis could get into a song better than anyone I've ever seen, Hodge said. That means he understood what the songwriter was saying, and he could feel it. He had the rare ability to believe a song and make you believe it too. To do that, you have to find something in your life that ties in to what the song is saying. That's what Elvis always did. He'd really get emotional sometimes. He never told us what he was thinking. Those things you don't talk about. You just do it. I started a playlist of songs that I thought might be songs that he sang to Lucy. So if any of y'all are interested, I'd be glad to share it. I shared it with Mama. We listened to the playlist one night when we were driving, and I've added a couple songs to it, Mom, so if you listen to it, those new songs will be in there. Okay, so now we're back to Lucy's story. Actually, I think I might stop because this goes on a little bit longer. About 20 more pages, and there's a lot in here. So this is going to go to 1967. So we're in 1958, and these next 20 pages are going to cover 9 years. Wait, 58, 59, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 9 years. So it's kind of a lot more. So I'll just let you digest about some of these songs and think if you look them up on Apple or YouTube and listen to some of the words. I might put some of them in our text string so you can listen to the words and think, because he lost Lucy. He lost her in 1954 when she got pregnant. That man got her pregnant. And then he found her again in 1955 at that park. And then they were together for a while. And then she got pregnant. And then he went to the army. And that was it. And then she ran. And so that's kind of where we are now. So he knew her from 53 to 54. And then they got married in their heart. And then she got pregnant by that man. They were separated for a year and a half or so, 18 months. And then they got back together again and were together for another, year and a half or so, maybe 2 years. So during those times, 1954, he started singing some of these heartbreaking songs because he missed her. And he told her he was going to sing songs to her. And then, during that time that they were apart, were even together but apart. Because even though they met in 55 at that park, then they visited and talked and stuff, but then they didn't really get to see each other again. I think it was 18 months, she said. But anyway, interesting. So I might put some of those songs on our text string for you to click and listen to. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.